Welcome to another Wonderful Hour. I'm Tommy Boyd. The Wonderful Hour is a tried and tested exercise in just reminding ourselves that there are lots of little things in life that are wonderful, but we don't notice them, and so they pass us by. So what we do in the Wonderful Hour is just remind ourselves about those things and discover that we feel just a little bit better than we did before we started doing that. We're a funny outfit, aren't we, the human race? So today, what's wonderful? Sometimes when you plan a meal, for whatever reason, might be because you've got family coming round or, I don't know, birthday or something, you go to extremes. You go down to the supermarket or the market or up and down the high street, and you carefully select all the items that you need for the recipe that you either have just read about or are consummate in cooking because it's one that you've done before, so you know it's a success. So you go to all that trouble. And then, of course, you get the stuff home and you have to prepare it, and you've got to cook it and present it and deliver it, and it's quite stressful. So the other day I made a meal of all meals. I made a salad. I nearly said to die for. That's, of course, a considerable exaggeration. I made a salad that made those who had a mouthful of it or a half a plateful of it, because it was scant. It had them all saying, "God, this is amazing. Where did you get the recipe?" or all that sort of thing. And I didn't. The almost entire recipe was just stuff that was left over in the fridge and in danger of going off 24 hours later. So there was this pathetic half an iceberg lettuce in the bottom of the fridge. And like the stalk sort of goes brown on an iceberg lettuce once it's been out of the ground for 10 or 12 days or however long, I don't know. And the outer leaves were going limp and pathetic. And I trimmed all that off, and I was left with just a fistful of crisp, very, very pale green, white almost, lettuce leaves. So I arranged them on a small plate, and I made 3 of these plates, and I managed to get enough lettuce to make a little bed that ringed around the plate, okay? And then I got some cucumber, which had seen better days, but if you take the end off a cucumber, it lasts. And I sliced the cucumber, and I decorated around the outside of the lettuce leaves 5, no more than 5, just exactly 5, because 5's a good number. It's easy on the eye, around the lettuce leaves. Now I've got cucumber. Now I needed some sort of a sauce. So I went to the larder, and there was some vinegar. There's about that much left in the bottle. There was a teaspoon of horseradish sauce in a jar. What else did I add? Did I add a spoonful of sugar? I don't think I did, but I could have done. Anyway, I made this sort of saucy paste and just sprinkled it, drizzled it on each of the plates around on the lettuce. Okay, and then I went to the fridge again, and I found some 3-day-old brown rice with some kidney beans that I'd soaked and had for a meal, again, 48 hours before, and they were in danger of drying up and going up. So I poured a kettle of hot water over them, let them stand for 10 seconds, drained them, and they spot on, absolutely spot on. And then I found a cauliflower, which again was at death's door, but I was able to rescue a ladleful of cauliflower florets. And I put them in some boiling water, stuck them in the microwave for 30 seconds. And then I got the only thing that wasn't a leftover out of the larder. And that was one of those tiny tins of tuna that you can get, drained it, mashed it. And I added some mayonnaise, some fancy mayonnaise. It was a bottle of Caesar salad that, again, there was only about that much left in it. And I added that, mixed it with the tuna, then mixed it with the warm cauliflower, because warm salads are a very, very expensive sounding, seeming item on a menu. And so then I piled everything up. So I put some rice and kidney beans in the middle of the lettuce, which had been drizzled with that homemade sauce. And then I added a dollop of tuna mixed with warm cauliflower. And it looked $1,000,000. And so I'd said to the family, if anybody wants to eat with us tonight, there'll be a plate of salad out in the kitchen. And there were takers. And absolutely everybody thought I'd gone to town. And I hadn't. I just used, apart from the tin of tuna, which is scarcely cheating, I'd used up leftovers. It had cost nothing. And it made the world a better place. And it also made me feel like a clever clogs. So, what's wonderful? Making something out of nothing. Absolutely wonderful. Travelling is wonderful, but you don't have to actually go anywhere. You can travel in your head. Have a go. Think about it. Think about the fact that you might be going somewhere, or that you'd like to go somewhere. And it doesn't have to be Timbuktu. In my case, I was due to go to a lovely town, well, city, I suppose. It's got a cathedral and a castle called Arundel, which is almost like the kind of place that Disney would design in the old-fashioned days when Disney's were all fantasies and dreamlands and everything. And Arundel is beautiful. And they have a game of cricket there of the highest calibre in their sort of village cricket ground. It's called Friends of Arundel Castle Cricket Club, and it's reputed to be perhaps the most beautiful venue for cricket in the world. And I've never been, but I got invited by a young friend of mine, and we were also going to team up with an old friend of mine, and we're going to take folding chairs because it lasts all day. However, I woke up the morning before I was due to go, and I'd overheated. I dehydrated, and I was quite wobbly, and it was clear that sitting out in the sun, because there was no shade, there were no grandstands or anything, for an entire day was a silly thing to do. So I phoned in my apologies, and they said, fine, we'll go and we'll have a lovely day and we'll keep you posted. So I went and laid on the bed because I was just, I was a drink of water with it. Heat stroke, my wife said it was, but I think that's probably an exaggeration. I had overheated. Sat in the sun all day the day before. You see, you're asking for trouble, aren't you, really? Especially if, my blood is Celtic. I'm from Scotland and apparently 17% Scandinavian, so sunshine and me. However, I'm lying on the bed and I'm getting text updates from the people I was supposed to be journeying with. They showed me texts of, here we are, pulling out of a station on the train. And I was with them. I was making the journey. And then they arrived at the ground and they sent me texts of images of the place filling up. And they sent me little videos of the game. They sent me a video of a guy hitting a six. And they were clearly happy as Larry. And somehow or other, I hadn't made the journey. I still wish I had. I'm going to get to this fantasy cricket ground at some point before I snuff it, I hope. But even if I don't, I have been there in my heart and in my mind. And it was a wonderful journey. And I took the entire journey lying on my own bed. Absolutely wonderful what you can do for yourself with your own mind and spirit. Wonderful. As we often say on The Wonderful Hour, you don't need to have 30 or 40 people over to throw a party. I was standing in the sunshine, foolishly, overlooking our house the other day when a man came past and he lit up when he saw me, and I didn't know who it was. He clearly knew me, but I couldn't place him. And it turned out that he was a neighbour because he stopped and started chatting. He was on his way to the post office to post something that had been delivered to him that was faulty, and he had to go through the palaver of wrapping it up and sending it back so that he could get his money back. And he was having a good old whinge about that, and I don't blame him, and I sympathised, because you must. I said how terrible it was, and aren't people don't they send you to great lengths so that they can get whatever is out of it that they want, and so on. And then we were off, and we yacked for 20 minutes or so, and I started to really like him. We were talking about setting yourself up in business, which he'd done. And I said, did you use your name in the business like so many people do? You see their names on the side of their vans. They proudly put D. Dobson, and sometimes they put D. Dobson and Son, and it lights them up. And same with driving schools. Individuals who own their own driving school, which is a car, they put Barry's Learners or something in big bold letters on the top, because they want to be noticed, and they want to be seen, and they want to be recognized somehow by as many people as possible, although they couldn't tell you why. And I asked him what he called himself in business, and he said, I called myself after the name of the village, the town that we lived in. I said, that's more sensible in so many ways, isn't it? I said, what was your business? He said, I'm a dentist. I'm a retired dentist. So I said, that's interesting. You don't do house calls, do you? Because we've got somebody staying with us at the moment who needs a dentist and we can't find one. And he was about to say, no, I can't do that, which I knew. Of course, I was only joking. But he said, oh dear. Well, he gave me a couple of tips on how to find an emergency dentist, from the inside. And it was a great chat. And in the end, we both said, I said to him, I better let you have the rest of your day back, which is a line I like, I often use. It works really well. I'll let you have your day back. And he said, anyway, lovely to talk. We must have a cup of tea sometime and put the world to rights. And I said, yeah, that's great. I would look forward to that. But it probably won't happen. But what did happen was the pure accident of both of us being on the same paving stone in our road at the same time turned into a party. And if you can look at it like that, you can have 3 or 4 parties a day if your mind and your heart is in the right place. So impromptu parties, we always say on The Wonderful Hour, you cannot beat them. Absolutely wonderful. Not long ago, I crossed the road and something came flooding back, and it was the first time I ever got to cross the road on my own. Do you remember yours? Do you remember that first occasion when you actually transcended into some kind of adulthood? Because previously you'd only been allowed to cross the road holding somebody's hand. Even if there was no traffic in either direction, they still guided you, supported you, helped you, protected you over the road. And then I remember it so well. I was about 5 or 6, and I had crossed the road that we lived in because there was hardly ever any cars in it, and that almost wasn't like crossing the road. But one day, and I can't remember the errand or the reason why, I was told that I could cross by myself the main road at the end of our road, where there were cars and there were buses and there were traffic lights, and I was told I had to go to the traffic lights, and I knew about all of that. And when there was that 5 seconds when all the traffic lights were red in both directions, then I could cross the road safely, and I was allowed to do this. I was let to do it. I dare say, whichever adults it was, I can't remember if it was my parents or my grandparents, because we were a 3-generation house. I can't remember who it was who took the plunge and said to me, you can cross the main road by yourself. And I can see myself now at the curb. I don't know if my heart was pounding, but I felt as though I was just going up a big rung in life's ladder, because I was about to cross the road. And I can see myself now actually tripping across the tarmac. And I travel quite quickly, looking both ways, looking left, looking right. Nothing's coming. I'm going to get away with this. I'm going to become, on the other side of the road, a fully fledged something or other, because I can cross a main road. And so I did. And it all came flooding back. The joy, the sense of triumph, the sense of achievement, the sense of maturing, growing up, turning into the person I hoped to be, although I didn't know who that was exactly. All I knew that afternoon, it was an afternoon, a weekday afternoon, and I was allowed to cross the main road by myself with not only nobody supervising me, but there was nobody there. I was allowed to go out of the house, cross the little road that we lived in, go to the traffic lights, wait, and then, when the moment came, I rose to another level and crossed the road, and I can picture it now. I can almost tell you what I was wearing, because it was such a memorable thing. Do you remember yours? Can you use memories like that? It's a wonderful thing, if you can. You're in complete control, and all you're doing is drawing up on a magical, genuine, wonderful experience that you've actually had. Wonderful. We're told in the United Kingdom at the moment that because the world's climate is changing, which it is, and there are still people out there who say it's got nothing to do with fossil fuels, they will tell you that. One wonders, really, whether they're people who, and I'm not going to get churlish, not during the wonderful hour, but they're people who've decided they don't want to learn anything new. And so they'll stick with what they know. And the idea of climate change being brought about as a result of the abuse of fuels like oil and coal, it's too much hard work for them. But the climate is changing, and the United Kingdom is getting much, much warmer. And that means that the waters around the United Kingdom, and we've got plenty of water around us, it's getting warmer. And what it means during the summer that we're experiencing at the moment is that we're getting animals that we've never had before, such as giant jellyfish. Oh, jellyfish. Huge fellas. And girls. I don't know. Do jellyfish have gender? I don't know. We'll come back to that. Well, we won't. But it's pause for thought, isn't it? And they're technicolor, and they're translucent, and they're mysterious. They look like what aliens would look like. If aliens ever land, they will look a bit like jellyfish in one's dreams. And they've got those tentacles, which of course are slightly dangerous. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever been killed by a jellyfish sting. I wouldn't be surprised, because apparently the toxins in their tentacles are quite pungent. I hope nobody's died, and I hope those that have been stung have learned their lesson, because you don't go messing with jellyfish. If there are jellyfish in the water, then just go for a paddle. But even then you can't get away from jellyfish. When I was little, we used to holiday in a place called Dunoon, in Ellen to be precise, a little village up the coast from Dunoon on the Clyde. And the Clyde is a massive river. I think it was about 4 miles across to the other side of a river in the United Kingdom. Surely that's the Amazon's territory or the Nile. But no, the Clyde, it's almost salt water by the time it gets to be 4 miles wide, because of course it joins the sea and kind of becomes the sea at some point, not determined by geographers, but it becomes the sea. And one summer we were there, and it was pretty hot, and there was an infestation of jellyfish. And they weren't exotic jellyfish. They all looked like blancmanges. Yes. When you were little, you may have seen a blancmange cooked or baked or frozen in a mould and then upturned onto a plate, and then it forms a dome of sweet sticky stuff, which when you're a kid's fantastic. But that's what these jellyfish looked like. And there were thousands of them, absolutely thousands of them, and they were mesmerizing. And it kept you out of the sea, and you didn't have to go swimming. You could just sit and look. And they were the surf where it hit the beach, the pebble beach, was 3, 4, 5 feet deep, a sea of these blancmange-like jellyfish. And one of my thoughts was, I wonder if they're edible. I wonder if anybody's ever harvested jellyfish and sold them in a fishmonger's. I very much doubt it. Would you buy a jellyfish? Even if the fishmonger said that they were rather nice, poached? You wouldn't, would you? But they are wonderful. They are visitors from another galaxy. They are beautiful. They are exotic. They're faintly dangerous. But unlike wasps, which are also weird and slightly dangerous. There is something exotic, and you want to go round. You want to go to the end of the road to see a jellyfish. If you were told there's a jellyfish in the bay where you're holidaying this morning, you would go to see it, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? It's like a free trip to a safari park, or a free trip to the galaxy's best zoo. Jellyfish, absolutely wonderful. And we're now getting them right up to our doorstep in the United Kingdom. And I'm going to say this, but I'll only say it once, thanks to climate change. Absolutely wonderful. The natural world is wonderful, of course, but we don't pay heed to it. We just take it for granted. But if we stop and think about the sunlight and the wind and rain, we're having a nice hot summer in the United Kingdom, but we found ourselves in the garden the other day, baking. I ended up on my back because I got heat stroke. Idiot. And we've been sitting there praying for rain. Talking about what we were going to do the next time it rained. It hadn't rained in the United Kingdom for 3 weeks. Now, I know in California it hasn't rained for 3 centuries, probably, but 3 weeks without rain in the United Kingdom is unheard of. And so many people moan about it all the time. Another wet one. Oh, here it comes. The heavens have opened. And sometimes people will say grudgingly, oh, it's good for the garden, or ducks will like it, you know. But the fact is, we were sitting there thinking, what are we going to do when it rains? And I said, when it rains next, I'm going to deliberately go out and get wet. I'm going to go out in my normal togs, t-shirt and jeans, and I'm going to get soaking wet, and the hair is going to stick down on the top of my head, and I'm going to lick the rain off my lips, and I'm going to enjoy it that much. And we reminisced about the fact that when it rained big time, stair rods, my father used to call it, stair rods, it's raining stair rods. Cats and dogs is another one. But he used to say, oh, it's stair rods out there. And what he'd do is he'd go upstairs, put his swimming costume on, and go out in the garden with a bar of carbolic soap. And he'd have an impromptu cold shower in the rain. I tried it once. I couldn't get a lather up. But it was a celebration of something which we denigrate and shouldn't. Because the reason things grow, the reason we exist is because it rains. If this planet was rainless, it would be like Mars, which is, as far as we know, deserted, and it doesn't rain. But thanks to the rain, we have all the many, many wonders of the world, and we knock rain. We stand at the bus stop wishing it would stop, because we might have to use our umbrella when we get to the other end, and that makes us miserable. And we shouldn't. We should go back to stomping in puddles. When was the last time you stomped in a puddle because you had your wellies on? Oh, absolutely wonderful. The natural world. And pretty much, not everything, but pretty much everything it has to offer is absolutely wonderful. I'll tell you what's wonderful. The other day, somebody who is staying with us at the moment needed a dentist because a little filling had fallen out and part of the tooth had fallen out with it. And she was discomforted and feeling a bit grim. So I got on the phone to hunt down an emergency dentist. And it wasn't easy because dentists are busy and obviously they have an appointment book and they fill it up as best they can. So I phoned a couple of places and nobody could help. I needed to get an appointment within 24 hours. She needed to see a dentist either that day or the next day so that she could look forward to seeing the dentist and hope that her recovery would be set in motion. And then I found a dentist who couldn't provide an emergency appointment, but knew how to advise me on how to go about it. And on her own time, and for no reason other than the goodness of her spirit, this receptionist at a dentist who couldn't help told me what to do and how to go about it, because I didn't know that there is an emergency dental surgery at our hospital. and it will see you. You don't even have to make an appointment. You just show up. They keep different hours to a normal dentist. They don't open until 5 o'clock at night, and they run through the night. And they can't take more than 8 people in one go, because they never know who's going to turn up and what the problem is going to be. So they can't obviously have people waiting there all night and then having to come back the following day because they couldn't be fitted in. So they're well organised, they know what they're doing, they're professionals, and they're available at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't know that. Did you know that? I don't know if every hospital's got an emergency dental surgery or clinic or whatever they call them, but this person at this private dentist who couldn't help told me, advised me, guided me in what to do. And then she tipped me a wink. She said, it says on their website that they don't open until 5 in the evening, but I can tell you on the quiet that at the moment they're opening at 1 in the afternoon. So what you do is you get in your car at 10 to 1 and you drive there and you show up as they're opening the door. And I bet you they'll see you straight away. And they did. And it happened and it worked. And she got an emergency filling and she was home again by 1:30. And the kindness and the care that dentist's receptionist showed in advising us what to do, and the very fact that that facility was available, which I knew nothing about, is altogether absolutely wonderful. That's it for another wonderful hour. Helpful dentists, having an impromptu party, making a gourmet meal out of what's left in the fridge and is starting to turn blue. All of those things, as long as you're on the alert, as long as you're paying attention to yourself and the world you live in. Absolutely wonderful. Until next time.